The Boys is a brilliantly crafted work of fiction. Renewed for season 2 before the first season had even aired, the show directly confronts a number of timely topics, including assault in the workplace, war, human experimentation, and the fact that absolutely zero corporations are your friend, no matter what sort of manipulative tactics they use to try to convince you otherwise. It's graphic, aggressive, and has a wonderfully cynical sense of humor. It was all over the internet when it first came out, and I had always meant to talk about the material with a more academic approach. But with the headspace I'm in right now, with everything going on in the world, I just don't feel as inspired to write in that particular tone. Hi everyone, it's LadyJenevia, and today we're going to be talking about Frenchie and Kimiko, the softest, most wholesome ship on The Boys. The first time Frenchie and Kimiko meet, he's instantly drawn to her. The full context of why this initial contact is brilliant, even if it is one-sided, cannot be understood until you watch more of their story play out. Without knowing anything about why she is in this cage, his first reaction is to want to let her out. Then when we fast forward to when the boys are trying to track her down in the shopping center, he is able to find her and opens up in a way he never has with anyone else.
Can I tell you a secret I never told anyone?
This scene is truly exquisite to watch for a number of reasons. Not only is Tomer's performance incredibly moving, but it's a huge leap forward for Frenchie as a character. Before Kimiko is introduced into the story, the audience really doesn't know much about Frenchie, and I'm not including any prior knowledge about his character from the comics in that. I'm speaking solely about what is or is not shown in the first few episodes. We learn that Frenchie has a professional history with Butcher and Mother's Milk. He's very smart and skilled in multiple facets of criminality, and perhaps most telling of all, in the episode that Kimiko is first introduced, not long before they first come into contact with one another, Frenchie is shown to be poking fun at Mother's Milk for being so domestic and romantic with his lady.
But I go to sleep next to someone different every night.
Yeah, that's because you an old lonely fucker too.
Yet after knowing Kimiko for just one day, Frenchie makes a bold declaration.
Can you speak? Tell me what you know, mon cœur.
For those of you who don't know the most basic rudimentary French, mon cœur means my heart. I need a minute. The first time Frenchie ever talks to Kimiko, he reveals something he has never told anyone before. He shares how he was kidnapped and held captive by his abusive father. Every time he tried to escape to return to his mother, his father would find him again. The physical and emotional scars he carries with him are why he has such strong instincts about Kimiko's motivations. He pieces together the various clues found within her meager living conditions while being held captive, from the train ticket to the nail varnish, and knows in that moment that all she's trying to do is go home just as he was when he was a young boy. There's a lot of recurring facets to Frenchie and Kimiko's relationship, one of them being that he never abandons her. Various members of the boys are constantly telling Frenchie to leave Kimiko behind, whether it's to leave her in her cage, leave her to be found by the people hunting after her, leave her to be beat up and captured by A-Train, but each time he never does. He uses his intelligence and follows his heart to do whatever he thinks is best for her, whether that's letting her out of her cage, her restraints, or getting the public to flock to A-Train so she can get away from him. So many people, including the other members of the boys, tend to see Kimiko as dangerous, but Frenchie is never truly afraid of her. He instead sees her fear and does everything he can to try to reassure her.
Frenchie, can you control her, please?
I do not control her.
Their shared experiences of captivity mean that freedom is even more meaningful to them. That's why you repeatedly see Frenchie prioritizing Kimiko's freedom and agency. It's more than just letting her out of cages and restraints. It's about giving her the space to try to find her way back to whatever new sense of normalcy works for her. Giving her the option of whether or not she wants him to change the channel might seem inconsequential in the grand scheme of life's many choices, but it's the principle of the matter. This is part of how he builds trust with her over the progression of their relationship. Of course, the interaction that stands out the most in showing how much Frenchie values Kimiko's freedom is when he offers her another opportunity to leave or stay and fight alongside them to try to take down Vought to stop them from harming others the way they harmed her.
I'm feeling she's trying to communicate. I mean, she's been doing this for Maybe that means something, huh?
Though the source of Kimiko's trauma isn't revealed until later on in the season, what is apparent from the beginning is that she's suffering from some sort of mutism as a result of it. She has an inability to easily communicate with the majority of people whom she comes in contact with, but Frenchie is the one who understands her regardless of whether or not she speaks. It's not just about him having a strong intuition, but a really high emotional intelligence as well. Once he has proven himself time and time again as someone whom she can trust and rely on, she feels comfortable enough to communicate in a more direct way when he asks if she wants him to change the channel.
Incroyable. You talk to me? She talked to me.
Frenchie is the one who comes up with the idea for the boys to get in contact with Mesmer because his abilities are the ideal matchup for being able to give her back her voice, so she can finally share her story. And note how protective he continues to be about the process.
Gentle.
There's something so ridiculously sweet about the fact that he still wants to make sure Mesmer is gentle in handling her. She is the most physically strong person in that room, but he still knows that she should be treated with care and consideration. She finally shares about how she was kidnapped, turned into a weapon, and separated from her brother. She would not have found the strength to do so if Frenchie hadn't been there to give her the emotional support she needed. He has an unwavering belief in her, regardless of everyone else's skepticism about whether or not she is good or can be trusted.
She saved my life. She's not bad. She just wants to go home.
That belief in her is the catalyst for her sharing her story and her name.
Dame da, Kimiko.
Kimiko. Bonjour, Kimiko.
Even though she never speaks in the present-day storyline in season 1, this breakthrough is what allows the rest of the boys to finally be more accepting of her into their group, though Frenchie is still the one that understands her the best.
She wants to know where you were.
There's an intrinsic softness to the way Frenchie and Kimiko are with each other, which paints a really nice contrast with Frenchie's cunning mind and Kimiko's brutal strength. Where others see Kimiko as a monster, Frenchie sees the opposite.
You are a miracle.
Frenchie feels that others only value him for the destruction he can cause through his knowledge of weapons and strategy.
That's how he sees me. Like this mad bastard. Only good for hurting or killing, you know?
By being a caretaker for Kimiko, he gets to show a whole new side of himself, like how he can cook and bake an array of treats. Food is an extension of his love language.
Basting every 20 minutes to keep it from drying out is very important. You don't stir, you fold. Like this. Now that's what makes them spongy.
This also gives Kimiko an opportunity to use her hands for something other than violence. It's healing and it's therapeutic. I really like the recurring focus on Kimiko's hands, since one of the first things you see her do in the show is destroy her captors with her bare hands. And then we fast forward to the end of the season, and you can see that she starts to heal and put herself back together again, just for the tragedy of the violence she never asked to be a part of to pull her back in. But of course, if we're talking about the use of hands in storytelling, we have to talk about the hand grab. When Kimiko's character origins are revealed, Frenchie offers her the opportunity to go back to look for her brother, even though you can see by his expression that he's really sad about the idea of her leaving. She takes his hand in order to communicate that she will stay to help the boys fight the fight in an effort to stop more people from suffering what she experienced by being injected with Compound V against her will.
No. Baby, why you gonna do me like that?
The way Frenchie responds to this with a sharp inhale is so powerful, because you can see how moved he is by her willingness to stay, and also that she initiated such a soft bit of physical interaction. It's also brilliant that they immediately cut to Mother's Milk on the phone with his wife, having a hilarious conversation about how she needs to not watch any episodes of Downton Abbey without him, since they had already made plans to binge watch it together. It's a really nice full circle moment because of how Frenchie had been the one to make fun of him for that domesticity right before he met Kimiko for the first time. We can track that progress even further to the season finale when Frenchie gets injured and is distraught at not being able to go rescue Kimiko from the room where she's being held captive and sedated. Without even saying anything, Mother's Milk can just look at Frenchie and know exactly what he's feeling.
Fuck.
When analyzing the strengths of The Boys as a show, it's really easy to gravitate towards things like the scathing commentary about timely issues in the writing, the unapologetically brutal action, or any number of the compelling performances across the main cast. Superheroes and supervillains can be larger-than-life characters and serve up a really entertaining spectacle, but the soft intimacy of the relationship between Frenchie and Kimiko is exactly the counter that the show needs to have balance and effectively convey how layered people can be, no matter how tough of an exterior they have.
And we're the same, you and I. Like eggs. Hard outside, soft inside, or pineapples, perhaps. Look at you, mon gars.
So there we have it, my video on Frenchie and Kimiko being the softest, most wholesome ship on The Boys. When I first watched season 1 of The Boys, I had started developing ideas for a thesis I could do for some sort of video essay to talk about the subject matter that is addressed on the show, but somehow, now that I'm finally getting around to talking about the show, it didn't quite feel right to be talking about things like government corruption, people in the world getting poisoned, and the fact that corporations don't care about people more than they care about their profits. You know, you have to read the room sometimes, and I would like to think that maybe I'm not completely terrible at doing that. In moving forward, for the time being at least, I am probably going to prioritize more of the topics that allow me to be a bit more facetious and less serious in tone. But I will say that I finally got my press account fixed. There were some technical issues with it for Apple TV Plus, so now I can watch not only the shows that have already been released, but there's a couple shows that are gonna come out in April, and I was thinking that I could do some quick reviews of them because I can watch them before they come out, so why not? I don't know if that's of interest to any of you. I don't even know if any of my viewers have Apple TV Plus, but they do have a fair few shows on there that I think are pretty good. Obviously, I have a soft spot for Servant, but we're not going to get into that today. I know that not very many of you watched my video on Shadow and Bone, and you know, that's fine, but I will say that I ordered more of the books in that series, and I'm probably going to talk about more of them. So you can just join in on the fun, or you cannot. It's entirely up to you. I had fun making that video, I'll have you know. If for some reason you're watching this and you haven't watched The Boys, I would very strongly recommend that you do so. There's a lot of brilliant writing, really cool, entertaining action, and if it wasn't obvious, Frenchie and Kimiko are another really good reason to watch the show and see their relationship play out so you can be emotionally moved by their beautiful connection. I really hope that those two get more screen time in season 2 because they didn't get quite as much of it in season 1 due to the fact that she doesn't get introduced until episode 4 and there are only 8 episodes in the entire season. The things I most want to see regarding them in season 2 is I want Kimiko to start talking, even if it's just a couple words, but we need to see that progress a little bit more. I want them to kiss because I still cannot believe that Frank Castle and Karen Page never kissed on The Punisher before it got canceled. I will never, ever let that grudge go. Subscribe so you don't miss any of the new reviews that I will be posting, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Vero to follow along with more of my running commentary on the various works of fiction that I am consuming. See you in the next one. Bye.